Welcome back. David Beckham's going to have a bit more time in his hands now. He's been given the boot from the England squad. The announcement came this afternoon when new head coach Steve McClaren held his first major news conference. He introduced his new captain, John Terry, and his assistant, Terry Venables, before explaining why he dropped Becks. Well, we're joined now by football writer from the Daily Mail, Steve Curry. Steve, welcome to you. John Terry, at least he's got uncomplicated hair, hasn't he, apart from anything else?
Yeah, but not a totally uncomplicated past, I have to say, Colin. John is one of those guys who had a fairly sort of tumultuous teenage period and got himself in a bit of trouble, as you probably know, and but has redeemed himself very well.
Makes him a good role model.
He is a good role model. I think he took a lot of advice from Gianfranco Zola on the golf course at Wisley, and he's mended his ways. He could have gone one of two directions. He chose the right one. And I think he'll be a very good captain. He's a great leader, very inspirational, very vocal. And I feel that of all the candidates, he was probably the best one.
Just going back to Beck's being removed from the squad, I mean, we've had emails going both directions. This one from NG Sibanda articulates one position. I'm not a David Becks enthusiast, but his sudden relegation from the squad by the New England typifies the lack of respect for great individuals. This from Chris in Sheffield. Beckham should be in the squad. There's no better crosser and free kick taker in the world. Bring back Sven. All is forgiven.
Well, I'm inclined to agree with the theory that it was a fairly sort of dramatic dismissal from the squad of Beckham, especially when you view the alternatives, Colin. You know, when you get rid of somebody, you've got to look at who's going to replace him.
Aaron Lennon.
Well, there's Aaron Lennon and there's Sean Wright-Phillips, neither of whom, in my view, are quite in Beckham's category at the moment. Now, McClaren was quite clever today in that he didn't entirely shut the door on a Beckham return, but the body language, he did two press conferences. He did one for the broadcast media and one for the newspapers, and his body language in both suggested that he probably was prepared to discard Beckham for all time, though he wouldn't actually do it. You know, I mean, football managers always say never. But David has got to play spectacularly well at Real Madrid, and the other two have got to play fairly poorly for their clubs for Becks to get a return, I think.
Steve, we've got some interactive contributions coming up. Steve Middleton is a Sky News viewer from Manchester. He joins us now via webcam. What's your point, Steve?
I think the point is that Steve McClaren said that David Beckham is still a great player. So why has he been dropped when we've got so few great players? I think he took a decision that won't get him criticised by the general public. I think a lot of people were upset with the way that Beckham didn't have a particularly good World Cup. But apart from Owen Hargreaves, who did? John Terry certainly didn't have a good World Cup.
Steve?
Well, I mean, that's a good Manchester reaction, I have to say. But I mean, he does have a point. But what I feel about Beckham was such an influential man around the entire England scene. You've got a new manager trying to make a mark. I always remember when Bobby Robson took over the England team in 1982, he discarded Kevin Keegan. Kevin Keegan had been the captain, and he said, right, I'm going to make a statement at the start of my career. And McClaren's statement is, Beckham is not going to be a part of it. Now, Beckham is nearly, 33, and we're talking...
Is he so old?
Well, he is. He's getting on a bit, David. But we're talking about a European Championship and subsequently a World Cup, by which time David will be well into his 30s. But I still feel you should judge people on their